BT's Body and Balance is sponsored by Canada Diagnostic Centres, offering MRI, X-ray, and ultrasound services in Calgary and Okotoks.
The holidays can be filled with joy, but they can also be filled with stress. And Leah putting her health hat on now to talk about how to recognize when your stress levels need to be addressed, what you can do to cope to make it a little bit better, and to make this time of year enjoyable, which is what it should be.
That's what the goal is, exactly. So there's the shopping, the dinner parties, the visiting families, and that can all be really fun, but of course, yes, it can be a little bit stressful too. So I spoke to a psychiatrist from the UC to find out how to know when your stress is too much.
We notice that perhaps we're not sleeping so well. We catch ourselves ruminating about things, thinking over and over about the same thing and being upset about it, finding ourselves perhaps irritable and angry in ways that we aren't usually. Perhaps being some tears or being really anxious, finding we're doing things that, again, maybe having a little bit too much to drink, and things that are just not in our usual pattern.
Right, so you're sort of not behaving as you normally would, certainly. There's also likely to be some physical symptoms of things like tummy problems, headaches, tight shoulders, tense neck, all those things, those physical symptoms are a big deal. Dr. True says it's really important to stop and ask yourself, what is my body telling me right now? And if you figure out that it is in fact stress, then there's a few things you can do to cope. First suggestion he has is to lower your expectations for the year and everything that needs to get done. He says, shoot for good enough, not exceptional.
It's quite common, I think, for people to set themselves and their expectations higher than anybody else's. You know, that I have to spend 6 hours in the kitchen getting this meal ready for whatever, and you know, if it was 3 hours, most people wouldn't notice much. You know, or maybe if I cheated a little bit and bought dessert rather than doing it all by hand. So I think sometimes we just need to sort of give ourselves a bit of slack.
That's the ticket. Give yourself a little bit of slack. And he also says it's really important to take care of yourself. So do the things that you would normally do to take care of yourself. Don't say, I'm too busy to exercise. It's really important to do things like exercise. Building in some downtime in the crazy schedule of it all, you know. Do things outside that you might like to do. He says getting outside is a really, really good thing to do. He says, and do that with the kids, because they often are getting kind of rammy because they're inside and they're not doing things as they normally would as well. So go sledding with the kids or take them to a movie. Do something that you can really have fun doing. And then try as best as you can to maintain the sleep routine for the family, and that includes the kids, so try to work those family visits around nap times.
Okay, that is important to be well rested around the holidays. Now, what about people who are on their own?
Yeah, so this can be really stressful just in and of itself, being alone over the holidays. So I asked Dr. True about that, and he said certainly it can be stressful. So he says the first thing you really need to do is to make an effort to connect with your people, even though you might not see them in person. So, you know, if you're on FaceTime or Skype, whatever the case may be, even a phone call, just connect in whatever way you can. And then he said the other thing to do is maybe put yourself out there just a little bit and maybe casually mention to friends or coworkers or people at school that actually I am going to be alone for the holidays and I really wouldn't mind an invite. He says, you know, most families don't mind bringing in somebody else. You know, it's not a big deal, or having a big turkey anyway. So that's certainly not a problem. So put yourself out there a little bit. And as for families that do get together, they may not always want to necessarily get together. It might not be the easiest thing for some of these families to spend time together. And so Dr. True is saying, you know, the holiday meal, the holiday get-together is not the time to talk about that long-standing argument that's been going on in the family. He even says schedule another time to do that. So like maybe you can say, well, we really need to discuss this, but let's do that, you know, on this day, right? So you can say, okay, I recognize that this is a thing, but let's not talk about it right now. So schedule that for somewhere down the road. Another good tip is, of course, watch that alcohol intake. So you think, okay, I'll just have another glass of wine to get through this meal. He says when those filters come down, he says we generally have filters in place for a good reason. He said, so you want to keep those intact for sure. Something else that he recommends is saying no. So, you know, you're just going to have to say no to some family members because, for example, you simply can't get to everybody's house on Christmas Day. So you're just going to have to say, no, I can't come this year. I would love to see you at another time, though, maybe Boxing Day or the day after. I just need to spend this time with my kids.
Setting those boundaries.
That's right, setting those boundaries, make sure they're clear.
Okay, thank you, Leah. More information, as always, on Leah's blog.
You bet, on my blog, including tips on traveling with young children. That's